April 2018, Dubai, a metropolis of impossible architecture and calculated extravagance. It was here that Emir Faisal Al Nahyan, a 43-year-old member of Dubai's extended royal family, believed he had found the solution to his most pressing personal problem. The afternoon sun sliced through the floor-to-ceiling windows of his office on the 87th floor of the Al Nahyan Tower, casting long shadows across imported marble floors as he studied the photographs before him. "This one," said Malik Tariq, sliding one particular photo forward. "This one is special." Emir lifted the photograph with manicured fingers. A young woman with delicate features and eyes that seemed both innocent and intelligent looked back at him. Not the practiced seduction of the socialites he typically encountered, but something rarer. "Isabela Castro," Malik continued, his voice smooth as the expensive cognac Emir kept behind his desk. 24 years old, college-educated, nursing, from a respectable but struggling family in Quezon City. Oldest of 5 children, father deceased, perfect health, no relationships on record, and most importantly, he paused for emphasis, completely untouched. Verification confirmed by our team in Manila. Emir didn't look up from the photograph. "You understand my requirements?" "Absolutely, sir. No deception here. You specified certain qualities. Youth, education, family-oriented, traditional values, and—" Malik cleared his throat discreetly. "Physical purity. Miss Castro meets all criteria." Emir finally set the photo down and leaned back in his custom leather chair. At 43, he knew he was considered handsome by most standards. Oxford-educated, successful in expanding the family's hospitality holdings across Southeast Asia, physically fit from regular tennis and swimming. But 3 failed relationships with Western-educated Arab women had left him disillusioned. "My mother reminds me weekly that the family line must continue," Emir said. Staring out at the city, he sometimes felt he owned and sometimes felt owned him. "She's become insistent since my younger brother's engagement." Malik nodded sympathetically. "Family obligations never diminish, even for men of your position. The women I've met," Emir continued, "they want careers, independence, separate bank accounts. They question everything. I'm not against education or ambition, but there must be balance, respect for tradition. Which is why you've made the wise choice to explore more traditional arrangements," Malik offered smoothly. "Women raised with values of family devotion, respect for a husband's authority." Emir turned back to the photo of Isabela. "And the cost?" Malik hesitated for a precise moment. "For someone with Miss Castro qualities, $10 million US. Emir's eyebrows raised slightly, the only indication that he found the figure surprising. "Excessive. Quality commands premium, sir. $2 million as initial payment to secure the arrangement and facilitate her preparation. The balance upon verification and completion of the marriage. Consider it an investment in your bloodline's future." "What guarantees do I have that she is as described?" "Documentation, of course. Medical verification, and your personal assessment before finalizing. We don't succeed by disappointing men of your caliber, sir." Emir was silent for a long moment. "I'll have my team verify her background. If satisfactory, we proceed." After Malik departed, Emir sat alone, studying Isabela's photograph. He prided himself on being a modern businessman, yet here he was, essentially purchasing a wife. But wasn't this more honest than the marriages among his social class, where family connections and business mergers masqueraded as love matches? He pressed the intercom. "Taib, contact Sammy. I need a complete background investigation on a Filipina woman named Isabela Castro." 2 days later, Emir's private investigator confirmed most of Malik's claims. Isabela Castro, nursing aide at Manila General Hospital, part-time student, primary financial support for her widowed mother and 4 younger siblings. No criminal record. No social media scandals. No known romantic entanglements. That evening, Emir invited his closest friend, Adnan, to his penthouse overlooking the Persian Gulf. "You can't be serious," Adnan said, setting down his whiskey glass. Buying a wife? What century is this? I prefer to see it as an arrangement that benefits both parties, Emir replied. Her family will be financially secure for generations. I get a wife who shares my values. Values? Or submission? Adnan challenged. Have you considered that a woman with no viable options might say anything, agree to anything? That's why I've had her vetted. She's educated, capable. A nurse's aide who'll suddenly become royalty, Adnan interjected. The power imbalance is staggering. Power imbalances exist in all relationships, Emir countered. At least this one is transparent. The next morning, Emir authorized the first transfer of $2 million to secure the arrangement. Within 24 hours, Isabela Castro would begin her journey toward becoming his bride. In a cramped apartment in Quezon City, Philippines, Isabela Castro wiped her mother's tears with a threadbare handkerchief. Stop crying, Mama. Please, this is a good thing. Elena Castro shook her head, her thin shoulders trembling. To send my daughter away to marry a man she's never met? How can this be good? The apartment buzzed with the evening sounds of the crowded neighborhood. Children playing in the street below, neighbors' televisions through thin walls. In the next room, Isabela's siblings were pretending not to listen. Marco, 17, trying to study despite the tension. Twins Sophia and Dalise, 14, whispering together on their shared mattress, and Gabriel, 10, silently completing a puzzle on the floor. Mama, look at this place. Isabela gestured around the two-bedroom apartment where 6 people had lived since her father's death 3 years ago. The roof still leaks when it rains. Marco needs university fees next year. The twins need new uniforms. Gabriel's asthma medicine alone costs what I make in a week. We manage, Elena insisted, though the deep circles under her eyes from working double shifts as a hotel cleaner told a different story. We survive. Barely, Isabela corrected gently. And the hospital bills from Papa's cancer took everything. The loan sharks are still coming around. You know what happened to Mrs. Dizon when she couldn't pay. Cousin Raphael says this man is wealthy, respected. A businessman from a good family, Isabela continued, her voice gaining confidence she didn't entirely feel. I'll have security, comfort. I can send money home. The twins could attend the private academy. Marco could study engineering like he dreams. But marriage, Anik? Not just employment, and so far away. Isabela took her mother's weathered hands in hers. Mama, what prospects do I have here? Working double shifts at the hospital, studying part-time, never finishing my nursing degree? Dating men who expect me to support them too. She forced a smile. Besides, Dubai is beautiful, like something from a movie. Movies aren't real life, Elena whispered. The opportunity is real. $2 million now, more after the wedding. Our debt's gone. A new apartment for you in a safe neighborhood. Education for everyone. The next morning, Isabela met with Mr. Haddad in the sterile conference room of a nondescript office building. She wore her best dress. Navy blue, modest, slightly faded from too many washings. Miss Castro, I have excellent news, Haddad beamed. Emir Al Nahyan has authorized the first payment. Your family's debts will be cleared immediately. Your mother will receive monthly allowances for household expenses and your siblings' education. Isabela exhaled slowly. And what happens now? Now we prepare you. Haddad slid several documents across the table. Standard agreements. Confidentiality, of course. Commitment to the arrangement. Medical examinations. Isabela scanned the documents, her nursing training making her methodical despite her anxiety. Medical examinations? Routine health screening. And verification of the qualities Mr. Al Nahyan requires. Her cheeks warmed with understanding. You mean virginity testing? Haddad didn't flinch. Precisely. A requirement non-negotiable for the completion of this contract. Is this a problem? Isabela thought of the loan sharks threatening her mother, of Gabriel's untreated asthma, of the twins sharing a single uniform, alternating school days. No, she said firmly. Not a problem. One last thing, Haddad said, his voice dropping slightly. Once you leave the Philippines, you must embrace this new life completely. Mr. Al Nahyan expects loyalty and complete honesty. Any undisclosed past indiscretions would have serious consequences. 3 days later, Isabela stood in Manila International Airport, clutching a new suitcase containing a hastily purchased wardrobe. Her family surrounded her, faces streaked with tears despite their efforts to stay strong. "Remember your prayers," Elena whispered, pressing a small wooden rosary into Isabela's palm. On the plane, settled into business class for the first time in her life, Isabela stared out the window as Manila disappeared beneath clouds. "Your life is about to transform," said Vera-chan, her transition coordinator. "It can be overwhelming." Isabela nodded, unable to speak past the lump in her throat. By the time the plane began its descent into Dubai, Isabela had composed herself. Whatever lay ahead, she had made her choice. For her family, she would become whoever she needed to be. The heat hit Isabela like a physical force as she exited the private terminal at Dubai International Airport. Even at night, the air shimmered above the tarmac, a stark contrast to Manila's humid warmth. A sleek black Mercedes waited, its driver standing at attention beside the rear door. As the car glided through the city, Isabela pressed her face against the window, mesmerized. Dubai at night was a fantasy landscape. Buildings that twisted impossibly toward the heavens, lights that transformed concrete and glass into jewels, wealth so conspicuous it seemed almost vulgar. "First time in the Emirates?" asked Vera, who had accompanied her from Manila. Isabela nodded, eyes fixed on the Burj Khalifa as they passed, its spire disappearing into low clouds. "It doesn't seem real." The residence turned out to be a luxurious villa in an exclusive enclave, surrounded by high walls and lush, impossibly green gardens that defied the desert. Security guards nodded respectfully as the car passed through ornate gates. Inside, Isabela was met by an elegant older woman who introduced herself as Miriam, the household manager. Her quarters were larger than her family's entire apartment. A suite with a bedroom, sitting area, dressing room, and private bathroom with a tub big enough to swim in. "Your new wardrobe has been provided," Miriam gestured to the dressing room. "Everything should be in your size. If not, alterations will be made tomorrow." Isabela opened the closet and stared at rows of garments still bearing price tags. Designer names she recognized from magazines but had never expected to touch. Her phone chimed with a message, her mother, confirming receipt of the first payment. The family debts cleared. A new apartment being arranged. Marco's university application submitted with fees paid in advance. Morning brought the beginning of Isabela's transformation. After a breakfast she barely touched, she was introduced to her instructors. Jamila for language and culture, Sophia for etiquette and social protocols, Dr. Nasser for health and wellness. "You have 1 month," Jamila explained, her accent British, her demeanor brisk. 1 month to learn enough Arabic to navigate basic conversations, to understand cultural expectations, to prepare for life as the wife of a man of Emir Al Nahyan's position. The days that followed blurred together in an exhausting rhythm. Mornings devoted to Arabic. Afternoons focused on cultural education. Evenings reserved for etiquette, how to host gatherings, how to behave at formal events, how to dress for different occasions. "Back straight," Sophia would correct, circling Isabela as she practiced walking with a book balanced on her head. Smaller steps, eyes level. A lady never appears hurried. Between lessons, Dr. Nasser monitored Isabela's health with an attention to detail that bordered on invasive. Blood tests, physical examinations, dietary adjustments, exercise regimens. Emir Al Nahyan expects a wife who embodies both traditional values and modern health consciousness, Dr. Nasser explained. "Your diet has been specifically designed to optimize your fertility." Fertility. The word hung in the air, a reminder of Isabela's primary purpose in this arrangement: to produce heirs, to continue the Al Nahyan bloodline. 1 week into her training, Isabela was permitted her first supervised shopping excursion to Dubai Mall. Accompanied by Miriam and 2 discreet security guards, She wandered through a consumer paradise that made her dizzy. "You may select something for yourself," Miriam said. "A small gift to mark your progress." Overwhelmed, Isabela found herself drawn to a bookstore. There, among shelves of English titles, she selected a collection of short stories by Filipino authors. Miriam raised an eyebrow but approved the purchase. 2 weeks in, the most difficult aspect of her training began: instruction in wifely duties. Layla, a poised woman of indeterminate age, spoke frankly about physical intimacy in terms that made Isabela flush with embarrassment. "Your virginity is a gift you will present to your husband," Layla said matter-of-factly. "But that does not mean you should be ignorant or passive. You must learn to please while maintaining modesty, to anticipate desires without appearing experienced." 3 weeks into her preparation, Isabela was introduced to Nadia, a Filipina who worked as a personal assistant. Nadia was perhaps 5 years older than Isabela, with quick, intelligent eyes and a reserved manner. "Kamusta ka?" Nadia asked when they were briefly alone, the familiar Tagalog feeling like a cool drink in the desert. "Mabuti naman," Isabela replied, tears springing to her eyes at the sound of her native language. "We don't have much time," Nadia said, glancing toward the door. "I just wanted you to know you're not alone here. There are others from home. We look out for each other." That night, Isabela found a note tucked into her pillowcase, a phone number, and a message in Tagalog: "If you ever need help, any kind of help." And the next morning, Isabela was informed that Emir Al Nahyan would visit that afternoon for their first official meeting at precisely 3 o'clock. A motorcade arrived at the villa. From her window, Isabela watched Emir emerge from a Rolls-Royce, taller than she'd expected from photographs, impeccably dressed in a tailored suit, his bearing confident but not arrogant. Their meeting took place in the villa's formal reception room. For several minutes, Emir asked polite, carefully scripted questions: her health, her adjustment to Dubai, her progress with Arabic. Isabela answered as she had been coached, her responses designed to demonstrate both intelligence and deference. Then, unexpectedly, Emir shifted to more personal territory. "Your father was a mechanical engineer before his illness, correct?" Isabela blinked in surprise. "Yes, he specialized in refrigeration systems." "And you chose nursing rather than following his path?" "Engineering requires full-time study. After he became ill, I needed employment that would allow me to earn while studying." Emir nodded, seeming to approve of her practicality. "Would you wish to continue your education after we are married?" The question caught her off guard. Would that be permitted?" Something flickered in Emir's expression. "I value education. An intelligent wife is an asset, provided she understands her primary responsibilities. To you and to our future family," Isabela supplied, repeating what had been emphasized throughout her training. "Precisely." Emir studied her for a long moment. "You are not what I expected, Miss Castro. I hope not disappointingly so." "No, quite the contrary." As Emir had been leaving, she had observed him speaking sharply to one of the household staff who had apparently misplaced a document. The cold efficiency with which he had dressed down the man revealed a hardness she hadn't glimpsed during their carefully orchestrated meeting. That evening, Nadia appeared with fresh towels. "He approved the match," Nadia said quietly. "Preparations for the wedding begin tomorrow." "Is that good news?" Isabela asked, suddenly uncertain. Nadia's expression remained carefully neutral. "He is known to be fair to his staff, not cruel like some, but demanding, perfectionistic." "You've worked in his household?" "No, but Dubai is smaller than it seems when you're part of the service community." Nadia hesitated. "Just keep your eyes open, and remember my number." That night, Isabela called her mother with the news that the wedding would proceed. Elena's voice was a mixture of relief and resignation. "The new apartment was wonderful," she reported. "Gabriel's asthma medication was working miracles. Marco had been accepted to engineering school." "Are you happy, Anik?" Elena asked softly. Isabela thought of Emir, handsome, educated, wealthy beyond imagination. She thought of her family's security, now assured. She thought of the alternative. Returning to Manila to struggle, to watching her siblings' potential wither for lack of opportunity. "I will be, Mama," she answered. "I will make myself be." The pre-wedding dinner transformed the east wing of the Al Nahyan Palace into a showcase of calculated opulence. Crystal chandeliers imported from Venice cast prismatic light over tables adorned with rare orchids flown in from Singapore that morning. 200 guests circulated through the space. Dubai's elite mingling with international business associates. Royal family members evaluating the proceedings with critical eyes. Isabela stood beside Emir, the diamond necklace heavy against her collarbone. Her couture gown a masterpiece of subtle embellishment. She had been presented to a parade of strangers whose names she struggled to remember despite weeks of memorizing dossiers. Her cheeks ached from maintaining the perfect smile. Pleasant but modest, engaging but reserved. "Breathe," Emir murmured during a rare moment when they weren't surrounded. "You're doing well." The slight reassurance surprised her. It was the most personal thing he'd said since their first meeting. "Your cousin Rashid keeps staring at me," she whispered back. "Rashid disapproves of everything on principle," Emir replied, "particularly things that threaten his position in the family hierarchy." Before she could ask what he meant, they were approached by an elegantly dressed older couple, the Al Masouds, banking magnates with connections to 3 royal families. "She's lovelier than rumored," Mrs. Al Masoud assessed, examining Isabela like a prize mare. "Nurse's training, yes? Practical. My second son married a doctor. Terrible mistake. Always questioning his authority." Isabela maintained her smile. "I believe good health is the foundation of a happy family." "Well said," Mr. Al Masoud approved. "And children? You understand this is your primary purpose." Emir intervened smoothly. "We look forward to building our family when Allah wills it." As they moved to the next conversation, Isabela caught sight of Emir's younger brother, Haytham, watching her from across the room. Unlike Rashid's open disapproval, Haytham's gaze held something more unsettling. A proprietary interest that made her skin crawl. "Your brother," she began carefully. "Haytham has always coveted what is mine," Emir said, his tone casual but his eyes hardening. "Business ventures, properties, possessions. Pay him no mind." Possessions. The word lingered in Isabela's mind. Was that how Emir saw her? Another acquisition to be protected from his brother's envy? As dinner concluded, Tasneem Al Nahyan approached. Up close, Emir's mother was even more intimidating. Her traditional clothing adorned with subtle gold embroidery that spoke of old wealth, her bearing regal without effort. "Daughter," she said, the word carrying no warmth, "you have conducted yourself adequately this evening. Tomorrow you join our family officially. Remember that you represent not just yourself but generations of Al Nahyans who built this legacy." "I understand the honor and responsibility, Mother Tasneem," Isabela replied with practiced deference. "Do you?" Tasneem's gaze was penetrating. "I wonder. $10 million buys obedience, not understanding." Emir stiffened beside her. "Mother, truth isn't discourtesy, my son." Tasneem touched Isabela's cheek with cool fingers. "Beauty fades. Youth passes. Remember that your value to this family lies in what you produce, not what you appear to be." Later, alone in the bridal suite prepared for her in the palace, Isabela removed the diamonds and designer gown, feeling the weight lift from more than just her body. Nadia arrived to help her prepare for bed. A kindness Isabela suspected was unofficially arranged, a small comfort before tomorrow's ceremony. "How was it?" Nadia asked softly, unpinning Isabela's elaborately styled hair. "Like walking through a minefield in glass slippers," Isabela admitted. "Everyone was evaluating me, categorizing me, and finding you worthy, from what I heard downstairs. The staff reports everything to the housekeeper, who reports to Mariam." Nadia hesitated, then added in a whisper, "Be careful tomorrow night, after the ceremony. Emir has expectations, demands." The previous women. A knock at the door cut her short. Mariam entered with a sleeping draft, to ensure the bride is well rested. Nadia slipped away with a meaningful glance that left Isabela with knots in her stomach. The wedding day dawned clear and hot, Dubai's skyline shimmering in the distance beyond the palace grounds. Isabela was awoken at 5 a.m. for preparations, a team of professionals transforming her into the perfect bride through hours of meticulous effort. By noon, she stood before a full-length mirror, barely recognizing herself. The wedding gown was a masterpiece of couture craftsmanship, modest yet sensual, traditional yet contemporary, embellished with thousands of pearls and crystals that caught the light with every breath. "You look like someone from a fairy tale," whispered Sophia, Isabela's younger sister, who had arrived that morning with their mother and brothers, flown in by private jet for the ceremony only, to be returned to Manila immediately after. Elena approached her daughter, eyes bright with unshed tears. In her new designer dress, with her hair professionally styled, she looked like a different woman from the one who had worked double shifts cleaning hotel rooms. "Anak," she said softly, adjusting Isabela's veil. "Are you certain? There is still time." Isabela glanced at Miriam, who stood by the door pretending not to listen. "There isn't, Mama, and I am certain. Look at Marco, at the twins, at Gabriel. Look at you. This is what matters." The ceremony itself passed in a blur of rituals, performances of tradition for an audience of 500 guests, most of whom Isabela had never met. She spoke her vows clearly, signed documents with a steady hand, smiled at appropriate moments. Through it all, Emir was the perfect groom. Attentive, dignified, projecting the image of a man who had acquired exactly what he desired. When he slipped the wedding ring onto her finger, a flawless diamond flanked by emeralds, his touch was neither cold nor warm, but precise. The reception lasted hours. Isabela's family was seated at a table far from the main party, obviously uncomfortable among the wealth and scrutiny. She had precious few moments with them before they were escorted away for their return flight to Manila. "Call us," her mother whispered during their brief goodbye. "Promise me." "I will," Isabela assured her, fighting tears that would ruin her perfect makeup. "Take care of each other." As evening deepened, Isabela found herself increasingly anxious about what would follow. Nadia's unfinished warning echoed in her mind. The previous women, what had happened to them? What expectations did Emir have that had sent them away? By tradition, the bride and groom departed the reception separately. Isabela was escorted to the palace's master suite, a sprawling complex of rooms that occupied an entire wing of the residence. The bedroom was an exercise in tasteful luxury, hand-painted silk wallpaper, antique furnishings, a bed that could accommodate 6 people comfortably. Rose petals were scattered across the Egyptian cotton sheets. Champagne chilled in a silver bucket. Isabela was helped out of her wedding gown by 2 silent attendants, bathed in rose water, dressed in a sheer negligee that had been selected by someone else. Then she was left alone to wait. She sat on the edge of the massive bed, heart pounding. This was the moment that would seal the contract, the consummation that would trigger the remaining $8 million for her family. The beginning of her real duties as Emir's wife. When the door finally opened, Emir entered alone. He had changed from his wedding attire into a simple black robe. His expression was unreadable as he crossed to the champagne and poured 2 glasses. "To new beginnings," he said, handing one to Isabela. She sipped nervously, the expensive bubbles doing nothing to calm her nerves. It was a beautiful ceremony. Indeed. Emir sat beside her, maintaining a careful distance. "You performed admirably. My mother was impressed, though she would never admit it." "Thank you." Isabela struggled to find appropriate words for this strange moment, intimate yet formal, the prelude to a physical union between strangers. Emir finished his champagne in a single swallow. "I understand this is difficult. The expectations, the scrutiny. It will ease with time." The unexpected empathy caught Isabela off guard. "I want to be a good wife," she said softly. "I know." He studied her face. "And I will be a fair husband. I won't ask more of you than you can give." For a brief moment, Isabela felt a flicker of hope. Perhaps there could be understanding between them, if not love. Perhaps Emir saw her as more than a vessel, a possession. Then his phone chimed. Emir frowned, checking the screen. "Excuse me. This is unexpected." As he read the message, his expression transformed from mild annoyance to frozen rage. His eyes lifted to Isabela's face, suddenly cold and assessing. "Who is Joaquin Navarro?" he asked, his voice deadly quiet. Isabela felt the blood drain from her face. "What?" Emir held up his phone, showing her an email from an unfamiliar address. "This arrived 5 minutes ago. Shall I read it to you? Emir Al Nahyan, congratulations on your wedding. Before you enjoy your wedding night, you should know the truth about your bride. Isabela and I were lovers for 2 years in Manila." Emir continued reading, his voice like ice. "I've attached proof of our relationship that your expensive background check apparently missed." Emir turned the screen toward her, showing images that made her stomach lurch. Herself and Joaquin embraced in intimate positions, her face clearly recognizable despite the grainy quality. "These are fabricated," she whispered, though the denial sounded hollow even to her own ears. "Are they?" Emir scrolled to another attachment, a birth certificate showing Isabela Castro as the mother and Joaquin Navarro as the father of a male child born 3 years earlier, followed by a death certificate for the same child, dated 3 months later. "This is not possible." Isabela's voice shook. "I never had a child. Those documents are fake. The Philippine government's database disagrees." Emir's voice was glacial. "As does the hospital where you supposedly gave birth. My security team has been verifying this information for the past hour, even as we exchanged vows." Isabela's mind raced. Joaquin had been her boyfriend before her father's illness, a relationship that had ended when the demands of caring for her dying father and supporting her family had consumed her life. But they had never had a child. The documents had to be forgeries. "This is a lie," she insisted, stronger now. "I never had a baby. I never." "Save your denials." Emir stood, putting distance between them. "My team has confirmed the documentation appears legitimate. Hospital records, birth registration, death certificate for an infant who supposedly died of congenital heart failure. But I would know if I had given birth. I would remember a child dying." The absurdity of having to defend herself against something so fundamentally impossible made Isabela's voice rise in pitch. "Unless you wanted to forget." Emir's eyes were cold with contempt. "Unless you deliberately concealed it to secure a wealthy husband. $10 million buys a lot of convenient amnesia." A sharp knock interrupted them. Haytham entered without waiting for permission, his face alight with barely concealed satisfaction. "Brother, is it true?" he asked, waving his phone. "The bride's scandalous past has been exposed?" Emir's expression hardened further. "This is private, Haytham." "Not anymore." The email went to several family members. "Uncle Faisal is already calling for action to preserve family honor." Isabela felt the walls closing in. The room that had seemed so vast now felt suffocating. "Please," she said, looking between the brothers. "This is a mistake. A deliberate attack." "By whom?" Emir demanded. "Who would benefit from fabricating such elaborate evidence against you?" The answer came in a flash of clarity. "Malik, the broker. If our marriage is invalidated, he would have to return his commission." Haytham laughed. "Creative but implausible. Malik's reputation is worth far more than a single commission." "Or perhaps your former lover is simply bitter," Emir suggested coldly. "Angry that you abandoned him and your dead child for wealth and status." "There was no child," Isabela cried, desperation making her forget all her training in proper behavior. "I knew Joaquin, yes. We dated before my father's illness. But we never had a baby. I would remember giving birth. For God's sake." Her outburst was met with icy silence. Emir exchanged a glance with his brother, some unspoken communication passing between them. "You'll remain here under guard until this matter is resolved," Emir finally said. "If these accusations prove false, I will deal with whoever orchestrated them. If true, He let the implication hang in the air. After the brothers left, locking the door behind them, Isabela collapsed onto the bed, mind reeling. How could documents exist for a child she'd never had? Who would create such an elaborate deception, and why? She tried calling her mother, but her phone had been taken. The suite's luxurious trappings now felt like a beautiful prison. Through the window, she could see security personnel positioning themselves in the gardens below. No longer protection, now guards. Hours passed. Midnight came and went. The wedding night that was supposed to seal her new life instead found her pacing, alone and terrified. Just before dawn, the door opened. Isabela spun around, hoping irrationally for Emir with news that the truth had been discovered. Instead, Dr. Samira Hakim entered, flanked by 2 female security staff. "Mrs. Al Nahyan," she said formally, though the title now seemed mockingly precarious. "I'm here to conduct an examination." "What kind of examination?" Isabela asked, backing away. "Physical verification of your claims. If you've never given birth, your body will show no evidence of childbearing." The examination that followed was clinical and humiliating. Dr. Hakim's hands were gentle, but her eyes were analytical, searching for physical signs that would either condemn or exonerate. "The findings are inconclusive," she finally reported, removing her gloves. "There are no definitive indicators of childbirth, but some women's bodies recover completely, particularly if the child was small and the delivery uncomplicated." Isabela wanted to scream. Inconclusive meant she remained under suspicion, without the clear vindication she desperately needed. By mid-morning, Malik Tariq arrived, summoned by Emir's team. Isabela watched through the partially open bedroom door as he was interrogated in the suite sitting room. "I verified her background extensively," Malik insisted, sweat beading on his forehead despite the room's cool temperature. The Philippine authorities provided documentation of her unmarried status, her health records, her virginity certification, all apparently falsified, Emir replied, his voice carrying the deadly calm that Isabela had come to recognize as his most dangerous mood. "You sold me damaged goods, Malik. The question is whether through incompetence or deliberate fraud." "Neither. I stake my reputation on my processes. Someone has tampered with the records after my verification. Someone with access and motivation." Their voices dropped too low for Isabela to hear more, but the tension was palpable even at a distance. Later that day, Nadia managed to slip into the suite with lunch. "Everyone is talking about it," she whispered, setting down the tray. "The staff, the family. There are rumors Emir is preparing to annul the marriage." "I never had a child," Isabela said desperately. "The documents are fake." "I believe you." Nadia glanced nervously at the door. "But Haytham has been meeting with family elders. They're saying you deceived everyone, that you're impure." "Why would Joaquin do this? We broke up years ago on good terms." Nadia hesitated. "Are you certain it's really him? Have you seen him in the pictures? Could someone be using his name?" The question struck Isabela like a physical blow. The photos had been grainy, dimly lit. She had recognized herself, certainly, and the man had resembled Joaquin. But she couldn't be absolutely certain. "I need to speak to Emir," she decided. "This is all a setup." "Be careful," Nadia warned. "The family is talking about honor, about reputation. Those aren't just words here." By evening, Lieutenant Karam Dabi arrived, not in police uniform but in civilian clothes, his manner suggesting unofficial business. Isabela watched as he conferred with Emir and 2 security personnel in the sitting room, occasionally glancing toward the bedroom where she waited. After he left, Emir entered her room, his face expressionless. "The birth certificate appears genuine according to database records, as does the death certificate. But I never." He held up a hand, silencing her. "The hospital, however, has no physical records matching the digital ones. No paper charts, no staff recollections of your case." A small flicker of hope ignited in Isabela's chest. "Because it never happened. Or because records were purged." Emir's expression remained skeptical. "The investigation continues. Until then, you will remain here. If your innocence is proven, appropriate actions will follow. If not, his voice hardened, the marriage will be annulled on grounds of fraudulent misrepresentation. Your family will return every dirham they've received, and you will face criminal charges. That night, alone in what should have been her marital bed, Isabela stared at the ceiling, tears flowing unchecked. Whatever future she had imagined, whether resigned acceptance of her role or cautious hope for eventual understanding with Emir, lay shattered around her. All because of documents that couldn't possibly be real, yet somehow existed in official databases. A child she had never carried, never birthed, never held, never mourned. A ghost created from digital records, now threatening to destroy her life and her family's security. As dawn broke, Isabela made a decision. She wouldn't wait passively for others to determine her fate. Somehow, she would find the truth herself. She would discover who had fabricated this elaborate lie, and why they had chosen her wedding night to spring the trap. I understand you want the story to align with the title and include the murder of the bride. Let me rewrite Acts 5 and 6 to properly reflect this direction. Morning light filtered through the ornate lattice screens of Isabela's gilded prison, casting geometric patterns across the silk bedding she had barely disturbed during her sleepless night. A quiet knock announced the arrival of breakfast, carried in by a stone-faced attendant, not Nadia. The message was clear. Her only ally in the household had been restricted from contact. In the Al Nahyan family's private council chamber, Emir faced his relatives across an antique table inlaid with mother-of-pearl. 12 men, uncles, cousins, his brother Haytham, sat in judgment, their expressions ranging from concern to thinly veiled satisfaction at his humiliation. The situation is unprecedented, stated Uncle Faisal, the eldest and most respected family member. A bride revealed as impure on her wedding night. The implications for our family's reputation are severe. Nothing has been conclusively proven, Emir replied, maintaining a calm exterior despite his internal rage. The investigation continues. The evidence is compelling enough, countered Rashid. Digital records don't fabricate themselves. And the photographs. What matters is our response, Uncle Faisal interrupted. This humiliation cannot stand. Our family name is at stake. Haytham leaned forward. Brother, your defense of this woman is concerning. She deceived you, deceived us all. The appropriate response is swift and decisive. Emir studied his younger brother's face, noting the eagerness beneath his facade of family concern. There is only one way to restore honor in such cases, said Uncle Faisal gravely. You know what must be done, Emir. A heavy silence fell over the room. The implication was clear. You expect me to kill an innocent woman based on unverified accusations? Emir asked, his voice dangerously quiet. Innocent? Haytham scoffed. The evidence is before your eyes. She made a fool of you, of all of us. She lied about the most fundamental requirement of your arrangement. Our ancestors would not have hesitated, Uncle Faisal added. Some traditions exist for a reason, Emir. The family's honor must be preserved at all costs. As the council continued their deliberation, Isabela paced her suite, searching desperately for any way to prove her innocence. The palace Wi-Fi had been disabled on her devices. The landline phone only connected to internal palace numbers. Every window was sealed, every exit guarded. By midday, Lieutenant Dabi returned with Dr. Hakim, who carried a file of medical records. Mrs. Al Nahyan, Dabi began formally. We've completed our verification process with Manila General Hospital. Isabela's heart leapt with hope. Then you know I'm telling the truth. The documents must be forgeries. Dr. Hakim's expression remained professional but cold. I'm afraid the hospital confirmed the record's authenticity. Their digital security systems show no evidence of tampering. The birth certificate was properly registered. That's impossible, Isabela whispered, feeling the ground disappear beneath her. I never had a child. I would remember. There are cases of traumatic memory suppression, Dr. Hakim offered clinically. The death of an infant can trigger psychological defense mechanisms. No, Isabela shouted, her composure finally breaking. I'm a nurse. I understand medical reality. I did not give birth. I did not lose a child. These are lies. Lieutenant Dobby exchanged glances with Dr. Hakim. We also spoke with Joaquin Navarro's parents. They confirmed your relationship and the child. They have photos of you pregnant, photos of the infant. Fabricated, Isabela insisted desperately. All of it fabricated. But doubt had crept into her own mind. Could it be possible? Could she have somehow blocked such a traumatic experience? No, the very thought was absurd. She knew her own body, her own history. As evening approached, Nadia managed to slip into Isabela's suite under the pretense of delivering fresh towels. You need to escape, she whispered urgently. Tonight, the family council has made their decision. What decision? Isabela asked, though the dread in her stomach suggested she already knew. There's talk among the staff. Emir has been given until midnight to... Nadia couldn't finish the sentence. If he refuses, he loses everything. His position, his inheritance, his standing in the family. He wouldn't kill me over lies, Isabela said, but uncertainty colored her voice. You don't understand how these families operate, Nadia replied, her voice trembling. Honor killings still happen, just hidden behind accidents, disappearances. I've seen it before. Help me, Isabela pleaded. There must be a way out. I'll try to create a diversion around 11. The service entrance near the kitchen has fewer guards. If you can make it to the street, go to the Filipino consulate. Don't trust anyone else. After Nadia left, Isabela frantically gathered what few possessions might help her escape. The blue handkerchief from her wedding, which could serve as a head covering. A pair of scissors as a potential weapon. Her mother's rosary for courage. At 10 o'clock, the door to her suite opened. Emir entered alone, his face an expressionless mask. He had changed from his business attire to a simple black thobe. In his hand, he carried a small silver case. Isabela, he said, his voice devoid of warmth. We need to talk. She backed away instinctively. I never lied to you. I never had a child. Someone has created these false records to destroy us. It doesn't matter anymore, Emir replied, setting the silver case on the bedside table. The family has made its decision. And you're going to follow their orders? Kill an innocent woman to preserve your precious honor. Her voice rose with desperate courage. What kind of man does that make you? Something flickered in his eyes. Doubt, regret, perhaps even a moment of clarity. But it vanished quickly, replaced by cold resolution. I paid $10 million for purity, for truth, he said quietly. You provided neither. So my life is worth only money to you? Isabela challenged, still backing away as he approached. I thought you were different. I thought you valued justice, truth. There is no truth except what can be proven, Emir replied. And all evidence condemns you. He opened the silver case, revealing a crystal vial of clear liquid and a small syringe. This will be painless, he said, his voice almost gentle. Like falling asleep. It's more mercy than tradition would dictate. Isabela felt her back press against the wall. There was nowhere left to retreat. Please, she whispered, contact my family one more time. Let me speak to my mother. She'll tell you there was never a child. Your mother would say anything to protect you, Emir countered, filling the syringe with practiced precision. As would mine for me. Then look me in the eyes, Isabela demanded, a final desperate gambit. Look at me and tell me you truly believe I'm lying. Emir paused, the loaded syringe in his hand. Their eyes met, her gaze pleading, his conflicted. For one brief moment, Isabela thought she might have reached him, might have awakened whatever conscience remained. Then his expression hardened. The evidence speaks for itself. I cannot allow your deception to dishonor my family name. As he approached with the syringe, Isabela realized with perfect clarity that she was going to die. Not in some distant future, not from disease or accident, but here, now, at the hands of the man she had married just 24 hours earlier. The man who had promised to be a fair husband. the man who had paid $10 million for the privilege of becoming her executioner. The struggle was brief but fierce. Isabela fought with the desperate strength of someone with everything to lose, managing to knock the syringe from Emir's hand. It skittered across the marble floor, coming to rest beneath an ornate console table. Emir's momentary surprise gave way to cold calculation. He moved with the efficiency of someone accustomed to physical control, pinning her against the wall with one forearm pressed against her throat. "Don't make this harder than it needs to be," he said, his voice eerily calm. "Accept your fate with dignity." "There is no dignity in murder," Isabela gasped, struggling for breath. "Only cowardice." Something dangerous flashed in his eyes at the accusation. His grip tightened, and for a moment, Isabela thought he might simply strangle her rather than retrieve the syringe. Then, with professional detachment, he released her throat and shoved her roughly toward the bed. "Stay there. Move again, and this will become much more unpleasant." As he bent to retrieve the syringe, Isabela seized her only chance. She grabbed the heavy crystal water carafe from the bedside table and brought it down on the back of Emir's head with all her strength. The impact produced a sickening crack. Emir collapsed to his knees, blood streaming from the wound, his expression one of stunned disbelief. He reached for her ankle, but his movements were uncoordinated, weakened. "You," he managed to say before slumping to the floor unconscious. Isabela stood frozen, the broken carafe still clutched in her trembling hands. Blood pooled on the imported marble tiles beneath Emir's head. Was he dead? Had she killed him? The nurse in her noted his continued breathing, the steady pulse visible in his neck. Survival instinct took over. The guards would be changing shifts around 11, creating the window Nadia had mentioned. She had perhaps 20 minutes to escape before someone discovered Emir. Moving quickly, Isabela changed from her silk nightgown into the simplest clothes she could find: dark trousers, a long-sleeved blouse, flat shoes suitable for running. She wrapped the blue handkerchief around her head, partly as disguise, partly to hide her distinctive long hair. She hesitated over Emir's unconscious form. The moral part of her wanted to ensure he wouldn't die from his injuries. The pragmatic part knew that every second spent in this room decreased her chances of survival. Compromise. She positioned him on his side so he wouldn't choke if he vomited, applied quick pressure to slow the bleeding, then moved toward the door. Before leaving, she took his access card and the phone from his pocket. The corridors were eerily quiet as Isabela made her way through the labyrinthine palace, trying to remember the route to the service entrance Nadia had described. Twice she had to duck into alcoves to avoid security patrols. Once she nearly walked directly into a housekeeper, barely managing to turn away at the last moment. Emir's phone vibrated in her pocket. A message from Haytham? "Is it done?" The implication sent chills down her spine. Haytham knew, perhaps had even encouraged, what Emir had planned to do. Finally, she reached the service corridor leading to the kitchen. Through the windows, she could see the loading dock where delivery trucks arrived during the day. Beyond that, a high wall topped with security sensors separated the palace grounds from the street. As promised, Nadia had created a distraction. Smoke poured from a trash receptacle near the guard station, drawing the attention of the security personnel. In the confusion, Isabela slipped through the service door and onto the loading dock. The wall loomed before her, impossibly high. There was no way to climb it without setting off alarms. For a moment, despair threatened to overwhelm her. She had escaped the immediate danger only to find herself still trapped. Then she noticed a delivery truck backing up to the dock, a late-night shipment of fresh produce for the palace kitchens. As the driver exited to speak with the guards about the smoke, Isabela made her decision. Moments later, she was crouched among crates of imported fruits and vegetables as the truck passed through the palace gates. At the first stoplight, she quietly opened the rear door and slipped out into the humid Dubai night. Freedom. Temporary, precarious freedom. She had no passport, no money, no resources beyond Emir's phone and access card. The Filipino consulate was her only hope, but she had no idea where it was located or how to reach it. Using Emir's phone would be risky, it could be traced. But she had no choice. Ducking into an all-night cafe, she quickly searched for the consulate's address. Nearly 7 kilometers away, in the diplomatic district. A taxi was out of the question, too easily traced. Public transportation had stopped for the night. She would have to walk, staying in populated areas where possible, avoiding security cameras. As she set out, Emir's phone vibrated again. Multiple messages now, increasingly urgent. Report status immediately. Security breach at the East Wing. Respond. The bride is missing. All exits on lockdown. They knew. The hunt had begun. Dawn was breaking over Dubai when Isabela finally reached the Filipino consulate, exhausted and terrified. The building was closed, security shutters down, no staff visible. She would have to wait hours for it to open, exposed and vulnerable on a street increasingly busy with early morning traffic. She was considering her options when a black SUV with diplomatic plates pulled up beside her. The window lowered to reveal a middle-aged Filipino man in a crisp suit. "Mrs. Al Nahyan?" he asked quietly. "Or should I say Miss Castro? I'm Consul Rivera. We've been expecting you." "How?" Isabela asked, too tired to mask her suspicion. "Someone named Nadia called our emergency line. Said you were in danger." He opened the car door. "Please get in quickly. We don't have much time." Inside the vehicle, Consul Rivera handed her a bottle of water. "Drink. You look dehydrated." "My husband tried to kill me," Isabela said between desperate gulps of water. "Because of lies about my past. Fabricated evidence." "The Al Nahyan family is powerful," Rivera replied grimly. "But they're not above international law. If what you say is true, we can request protective custody, begin asylum proceedings." "If I live that long," Isabela said, "they'll come for me. They'll claim I attacked Emir, stole from him. They'll make me the criminal." "First things first," Rivera said, directing his driver toward the consulate's private entrance. "Let's get you safely inside our jurisdiction. Then we'll contact your family, gather evidence of your innocence." Inside the consulate, Isabela was taken to a secure room where a female staff member provided fresh clothes, food, and basic medical attention for the bruises forming on her throat. "You're safe now," Rivera assured her. "This is Filipino territory. They cannot touch you here without creating an international incident." He underestimated the Al Nahyan family's reach. Less than 3 hours later, Dubai police vehicles surrounded the consulate. An official delegation requested entry, carrying an arrest warrant for Isabela Castro on charges of attempted murder, theft, and fraud. "This is absurd," Rivera argued in the consulate's conference room, facing the police chief and 2 government officials. "Mrs. Al Nahyan is the victim here, not the perpetrator. We have medical evidence of a severe assault on Emir Al Nahyan," the police chief replied coldly. "Security footage of Mrs. Al Nahyan fleeing the scene. His blood on her clothing." "Self-defense," Isabela insisted. "He was trying to kill me." "A convenient claim," one official remarked. "Yet we have no evidence of any threat to you, while we have considerable evidence of your deception regarding your past." The diplomatic standoff continued for days. The Filipino government, reluctant to damage relations with the UAE over one citizen, offered limited support. International press began reporting on the story, a salacious tale of deception, violence, and cultural clash. Headlines around the world reduced Isabela's life to tabloid fodder. Sheikh's bride not a virgin. Attempted murder after discovery, $10 million deception. Filipino bride attacks Dubai royal, honor and betrayal. Inside the Al Nahyan wedding night scandal. None mentioned the silver case with its lethal syringe. None questioned why a man would try to kill a woman over her sexual history. None spoke of Isabela's desperate fight for survival. On the 5th day of the standoff, Nadia was found dead in her apartment, an apparent suicide, though the hasty cremation of her body prevented any independent verification. The note she supposedly left confessed to helping Isabela attack Emir and escape, motivated by jealousy and financial gain. "They're eliminating witnesses," Isabela told Rivera desperately. Nadia wouldn't kill herself. She was trying to help me. I know, Rivera admitted, his expression grim. But proving that is impossible now. On the 7th day, Emir himself appeared at the consulate, his head bandaged but his composure perfect as cameras recorded his arrival. He requested a private meeting with his wife. Absolutely not, Rivera insisted. Mrs. Al Nahyan fears for her life. I understand her fear, Emir replied smoothly. But there has been a terrible misunderstanding. I want only to speak with her, to offer reconciliation. Reconciliation? Isabela echoed in disbelief when told of his request. He tried to murder me. He denies it completely, Rivera explained. Claims you attacked him unprovoked when he confronted you about the fraudulent documents. Says you misinterpreted his intentions. The syringe, Isabela insisted. There was a silver case with a syringe. That's his proof of intent. No such items were found in your suite. The palace claims you invented this detail to justify your assault on him. The walls were closing in. Without Nadia's testimony, without the evidence of the syringe, it was Isabela's word against the entire Al Nahyan family. And in Dubai, there was no question whose word carried more weight. On the 10th day, diplomatic pressure became unbearable. The Filipino government, facing economic threats and visa restrictions for thousands of workers in the UAE, began suggesting a compromise solution. What kind of compromise can there be? Isabela asked bitterly. Either I die or I don't. Rivera looked away, unable to meet her eyes. The UAE government is proposing that you sign a statement admitting to fabricating your assault claims. In exchange, the attempted murder charges would be dropped. You would face deportation rather than imprisonment. And once I'm outside this building, once I'm in police custody, how long would I live? We would insist on diplomatic escort all the way to the airport. And you believe that would protect me? Isabela laughed hollowly. A family that can fake government records and eliminate witnesses wouldn't hesitate to arrange an accident during transfer. That night, alone in her secure room, Isabela came to a terrible realization. There was no path to safety, no way to prove her innocence against such power. Even if she somehow reached the Philippines, the Al Nahyan reach was global. They would find her eventually, or worse, target her family. In a final act of desperate courage, she wrote everything down. The arrangement, the wedding, Emir's attempted murder, her escape. She included every detail she could remember, every name, every circumstance. She sealed this testimony in an envelope addressed to international human rights organizations. If anything happens to me, she told Rivera the next morning, handing him the envelope, make sure this reaches the right people. Rivera took the envelope solemnly. It won't come to that. We'll find a solution. But there was no solution, only a choice between terrible options. When Emir requested another meeting, this time offering to come alone, without media or officials, Isabela finally agreed. Are you certain? Rivera asked, clearly concerned. Yes, Isabela replied, a strange calm having settled over her. I need to face him one last time. Emir arrived without entourage, dressed simply, his manner subdued. In the consulate's conference room, he sat across from Isabela, the table between them like a demilitarized zone. You look well, he began awkwardly. For someone who narrowly escaped being murdered by her husband? Isabela replied. Emir's expression tightened. That's not what happened. We both know exactly what happened. For a long moment, they stared at each other in silence. A man of immense power, a woman with nothing left to lose. Why? Isabela finally asked. Even if you believed those lies, why would you choose death as the response? What kind of person does that? You wouldn't understand, Emir replied, his voice low. My position, my family's expectations, the weight of tradition. I understand perfectly. Isabela cut him off. You value your reputation more than truth, your family honor more than human life. Another silence, heavy with unspoken accusations. What do you want, Isabela? Emir finally asked. Money? A settlement? Name your price to end the situation discreetly. I want justice, she replied simply. I want the world to know what you tried to do. I want to live without looking over my shoulder for your family's assassins. Impossible, Emir said flatly. The Al Nahyan name cannot be dragged through this kind of scandal. Too much is at stake. Then we have nothing more to discuss. Emir leaned forward, his voice dropping to a whisper. Be reasonable, Isabela. You cannot win against us. There is no scenario where you emerge victorious. I'm not trying to win, she replied calmly. I'm trying to survive. And failing that, I'm trying to ensure the truth survives me. 3 days later, Isabela Castro was found dead in her room at the Filipino consulate. The official cause: an overdose of sleeping medication. A suicide note expressed remorse for her false accusations against Emir Al Nahyan, asking forgiveness for the shame she had brought on her family. The international press, initially suspicious, gradually accepted the official narrative as diplomatic relations between the UAE and Philippines normalized with remarkable speed. New labor agreements were signed. Visa restrictions lifted. Economic partnerships strengthened. Consul Rivera was reassigned to a prestigious position in Europe. His career suddenly accelerated. The sealed envelope containing Isabela's testimony was never mentioned again, presumably destroyed or buried in some diplomatic archive. In Manila, Elena Castro received a compassionate payment of $20 million from an anonymous donor, along with education funds for all her children and a new home in an exclusive neighborhood. When journalists sought comment on her daughter's death, she would only say that Isabela always put family first before closing her door on further questions. The only person who publicly challenged the official story was Lieutenant Dobby, who resigned from the Dubai police force shortly after Isabela's death. His subsequent questions about missing evidence and procedural irregularities were met with warnings about damaging unfounded allegations. When he persisted, he was charged with corruption unrelated to the case. Rather than face imprisonment, he fled to Europe, where he lived in obscurity, occasionally giving interviews to human rights organizations about justice for sale in his former homeland. 6 months after Isabela's death, Emir Al Nahyan married Layla Al Masri, daughter of a prominent banking family. Their wedding was a modest affair by royal standards, covered respectfully by the press with no mention of his previous marriage. Their first child, a son, was born exactly 9 months later, securing the Al Nahyan bloodline as planned. In a small Manila cemetery, far from Dubai's glittering towers, Isabela's grave bore a simple inscription: daughter, sister, sacrifice. Each year on the anniversary of her death, anonymous flowers appeared, not elaborate arrangements but simple sampaguita blossoms, the national flower of the Philippines, symbol of purity, devotion, and strength. The truth of what happened in that palace suite remained buried, another casualty in the collision between power and vulnerability, between wealth and desperation, between $10 million and one human life deemed expendable in the name of honor.